hard to describe the excitement because you know any minute you're going to run into either breaking fish or seeing birds working on top of fish.
In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, this doesn't make sense. How come nobody's done this? Why aren't there people here in jet boats today?
You know, over the last 7-8 years, I've done a lot of international travel. You expect to travel somewhere this far, this great of a distance to find big fish, easy fishing, less pressure. And it is so not the case here.
As fly fishermen, we're fortunate to live in a world with 70% water. Filled with so many different fish, inhabiting so many different types of water, it seems impossible to fish for them all in one lifetime. With so many species and waters to explore, how are you supposed to choose? Some are driven by size and numbers, while others want an extreme challenge, or the opportunity to fish a pristine body of water with no one else around. And then, there are those who want it all. As a fly fisherman, you really have to love a country like Slovenia. It's a really small country. It's only a little larger than New Jersey, but it has so much to offer. It's a beautiful country, beautiful cities, and really strong, vibrant culture. I'm over here with some of my closest friends, and while there's really so many species, we're really targeting just 2 of the native species, which are the marble trout, the largest stream-dwelling trout in the world, and the hucho, which is a really close relative of the taimen. As a fishing destination, you know, this is really the ultimate for me. You know, as you evolve as a fly fisherman, you want bigger and more technical challenges, and this is it. This is a challenging fishery. No doubt this place makes you a better fisherman. You have to be so stealthy. The water is so clear with that white bottom. You know, sometimes it feels like you're fishing saltwater. And the majority of the time, the fishing's really tough. The water is so clear, and you can work so hard, you know, for one fish. But like anywhere, if you hit it just right and a major hatch does materialize, the fish go mad. When the bugs show up here, these fish go crazy. They act like they haven't eaten in months. And what starts out as simple feeding, you know, little sips on the surface, quickly turns into just a mad, crazy dash for food. Now, we didn't run into any truly giant marble trout, but it was just great to see them in such large numbers. When it came time to find the real giants of Slovenia, we turned our attention to the rivers with the hucho.
This was the river. This was where we could get a shot at the so famous hukin, or the Danubian salmon. Even though they're not the taimen, they're the closest relative, and literally about 10 casts in the morning, I get hooked up on a hukin. I've actually never had that intense of a hookup. It's the fish I've dreamed about. This is the fish I've been chasing. I've wanted to chase forever, and I started thinking, great, I did 3x because I really didn't plan on hooking one. It just built up as though it wasn't supposed to be, that there was just too much against me. You know, so I'm hooked and it's tight, and we've got him in sight, and we've got him in the shallows, and it's looking possible, it's looking really good, and then in the blink of an eye, it's over.
It's been raining for over 3 weeks. The rivers are completely flooded. They've been coming up over their banks. They've been wiping out roads and cars and houses. To be honest, it's starting to feel a little like steelheading during those extremely wet, cold Washington winters. Yet you have to get out there in that foul weather and work it regardless. You just have to believe that if you cast long enough, and you work every drift as if it is the one, and you just keep putting your time in, it'll happen. I see so many people traveling the globe in search of destinations with bigger, easier fish to catch. And you know what, for some that's great. Meanwhile, for me, I get more enjoyment out of putting in a lot of time, going out in search of extremely rare, difficult fish to catch. And you know, if you want numbers, this probably isn't your place. And besides, I mean, if you want big fish and lots of them, go to Alaska.
Silver hanging on the wall, beautiful for sure. Silver beaming down the hall, ringing out so pure. And silver gold just doesn't shine with your strange allure. But I just had to make you mine, 'cause you fill my head with her.
I'm Mark Rutherford, and I've been exploring Alaska rivers and in particular fly fishing for 34 years. I've raised a family with my wife on a homestead in eastern Alaska. I'm really, really pleased to say that my daughter Kate is here on this trip.
I'm Kate Rutherford, daughter of Mark Rutherford, here to guide with my father. He's been dragging me around for 25 years. I've been guiding in Alaska on and off since 1999, so about 7 years.
I just have to say as a father that, you know, I'm just really humbled and just really proud to do this kind of thing with my daughter Kate.
We work super well together. I've known him for my whole life, and so I know when he's tired and what I can do to help and how to use his kitchen, and I think that's a gift for him.
She is a remarkably accomplished outdoors person. What I struggle at and what many people struggle at, you know, the various skills that you develop along the way, map reading, route finding, meal preparation, you know, she just gets.
It's been a long road, it's been a hell of a road, it's been a beautiful rose, it's been cold. I've seen a couple people be bold after they were told they didn't have it. Seen a friend get shot down and go right back at it. I've been home, I've been alone and broken hearted. I've been inspired, writing about the spark, trying to start a fire. Let's get inspired, let's start a fire. Forget the water, it's time to let this fire burn. It's time to let this fire burn. It's time to let the fire burn.
I feel like it's cheating when I get to go fishing with my dad and be in his boat. It makes everything a million times easier. Him rowing the boat for me was special. Like, I don't get to do that very often. Usually I'm working, I got my own boat, my own clients. I can follow him, and that, you know, that's great.
She caught the largest rainbow of her life, full on, just a great fish.
Having a great net man is helpful too.
What I noticed coming out of my mouth while my daughter is playing this huge fish is all these do's and don'ts, like, no, keep the line a little, keep it just right, tenth, no, not that, oh, when we land it, you got to do this. It was like unbelievable. I got all this stress, and it was so important.
Really, really beautiful fish. Really tall, really deep. Get to share that with my dad. It doesn't happen very often. I see him a handful of times a year, so super exciting day for me. Bigger fish in my life, probably. He wasn't that long, but he was really tall.
But in spite of my advice, she landed, truly a grand fish. And I love that, and I love it that she took the time out to spend with me, doing my passion. Can you imagine me taking the week out to go climb El Cap? It would be tough, but I would do it.
Eventually the salmon runs fade as the days grow shorter, and the leaves that seem to change overnight remind us of an impending winter. And while trout fishermen treasure some of the last hatches of the season, elsewhere, the season's just beginning.
My name is Seth Thompson. I live in a little town called Coates, North Carolina, which is about 2 hours inland, but primarily our fishing takes place down here around Morehead City. The hype starts in October. When you start seeing those first cool days, it's albie time.
Never gets boring. Run down every weekend. Every weekend's different. Every day's different.
For a number of years now, this area has really brought the attention of the fly fishing world.
I think in a lot of ways this inshore fishing is the most intriguing I've ever seen.
When you stick your head out of Beaufort Inlet, depending on the weather, you're going to head east or west. Roger that. Hard to describe the excitement because any minute you're going to run into either breaking fish or seeing birds working on top of fish.
The main birds I'm looking for are the gulls. You can normally tell when the fish are right up underneath the gulls. They'll be packed in a little tight bunch, pedaling on the water, just dancing. When you see all those birds come together, more than likely a school of albacore has pushed up a bait ball to the surface. And the albacore slashing through the bait ball, they're picking off the bait just like the albacore are.
The way we play the game down here may be a little bit different than others. We kind of do more of a run and gun style. My personal opinion, when you see breaking fish, obviously they're feeding, so why not hit aggressive, heavily feeding fish? You have your buddy up front, holding on to, gripping into the floor of the boat with his toes the best he can, because you're running and gunning and jumping on top of them, and he's like, ah!
Albies kick ass, nothing else like it, pure speed. Once you hook up, fly line will just snap against the fly line. Gone. Fly line wrapped around my foot. Busted my ass. Got it off, but I still got the fish. Get some of that, bitches! Yeah, brother.
The speed of the fish translates to the speed of a cast, and that's really difficult to be ready all the time, both mentally and physically. Just like boom, they can be there at any second. I think that's the thing here for anybody who loves to fly fish. It's just how ready can I be all day long.
But when you do see a school of breaking fish, birds, you know, right on top of them, hitting silver sides, I mean, the big flash, the wave of silver sides just getting pushed by these, you know, 10, 15-pound albacore, it doesn't get much more exciting. The speed is, it really is, it's hard to describe. My best analogy is if you were to sit out there on the interstate during 5 o'clock rush hour and you were sitting there practicing casting and you just so happen to line wrap the antenna on a frickin' VW bus, your line is just ripping past you. It's like casting into traffic, man. I mean, once you hook them, game's on.
She was all kind of way. I don't have much to say. In the wild, I'll be alright.
They're not here to play around or mill around. They're here to flat out eat. If you can get your fly in the game, the likelihood of you hooking up is pretty good. But you know, countless times I see many people struggling out there. I mean, it's not all about wasting gas. I mean, you're out there, you're working hard for them. You know, countless times you're out there, you're running, you get to a pot of fish and they just disappear. Other times they stay up and you're granted, you know, maybe with a hookup or two. But it's a constant game. It's a battle.
You know, I have friends that say they don't fish because they don't have the patience. Patience, my ass. What it takes is incredible concentration. I mean, you gotta be able to read a stream just like an expert reads a bottle of wine. And you gotta look at little micro currents, and you gotta understand about insect life. I mean, you gotta start thinking like a fish.
It's really like a huge puzzle that I'm trying to solve. You know, it opens up an entire world of how everything's connected together. It's really this completely immersive thing that is fly fishing.
The first fish I remember catching, I actually fell in the water. I love that moment, hooking fish. That fish, your fly, that 2 seconds.
And then you want another one. That connection on the other end of the line, that's the magic for me. Fishing is like one of the things that defines my life.
It's not a sport, it's a real passion.
And it's all about connecting with something wild and free. And trout can't be bought or stolen. They just live in those cool places, and I love to be in those places.
I've been fishing since I was 5, so almost 50 years. And when I'm out fishing, I'm literally alive in that moment. I don't know how to explain it, but it's magical. It's truly magical. I actually am touching something that's almost perfect.
You know, when I'm fishing, you take all of it into account, the sun, what the wind's doing. You know, it's not terribly complicated for me. I see what's going on in the environment and do what I know to do, which is very little, fish. I have a spot I like to fish in Rocky Mountain National Park that no one went to, an old growth canyon that burned in January 2 years ago.
At this hour, obviously the lack of snow up here in Estes Park, not a single flake on the ground, is not boding well for this situation. However,
fires are burning in January.
Fires become a huge event here in the West.
The temperatures are rising, the droughts are more severe. All those things are having an impact on the fish that we love and the really fragile ecosystems that they live in.
We never used to have stream closures because of hot water. And now, you know, they have to close the Madison, they have to close some streams in Yellowstone because the water gets too warm and then the fish are stressed out.
Those red dots are the warmest temperatures ever in cities. Folks, this has never happened before. Now, with that heat came an awful lot of storms. About 1,000 storms kicked off on Friday.
You know, we've had devastating floods, like streams down to bedrock.
We see snowpacks coming later and leaving earlier. We see millions of acres of forests that have literally kicked the bucket, and that's climate change. That's what's happening. So one of the things that not many people understand today is that the science on climate change is really clear, and we know that CO2 has an effect on temperature. About 97% of the people who work on this, the experts, the climate scientists, are in agreement that climate change is a huge issue and that we're causing it. The emissions from our vehicles and from power plants, anytime we burn fossil fuels, and we dump 30 billion tons of CO2 into the atmosphere each and every year. And that's having an impact. It's raising the temperature here. And then we see all these things happening that we've never seen before.
And something happened today in this country that's never happened before. Take a close look. Across the southeast, almost 1,300 severe weather reports.
Today was day 87 for those folks to have 100-degree heat.
Much of the country is about to feel record warmth with the start of December. Meteorologist Kim Cunningham.
I see things changing pretty rapidly. I'm not a scientist, but it worries me. You know?
I've been fishing all my life. You know, it's a habit I picked up when I was about 6 years old or something. You know, you start out young like that and it stays with you forever.
When I'm out on the river, I belong. I mean, it's about belonging. It's about being someplace where it's natural to be. And then I look at my little boy, he's 9, and I think, you know, whether he falls in love like I have or not, I want to give him those opportunities, and I want to make it like he has the chance to do that. And man, it's all at risk, and for whatever reason, we don't see that clearly. At least we're sure not acting like it's happening.
I mean, I love catching fish. I mean, it's pretty obvious to me that fish need a few things, and it's pretty simple. They need cold, clean, clear water. You know, it's the last thing that I'd ever want is some of these places to disappear.
This is my religion. I mean, I love fishing. It's one of the few things that I do that time just kind of washes away. When I think about all the threats to cold water fisheries, it makes me incredibly angry.
Of course, wild and native trout live in cold water, pure water habitats, such as we are so blessed to have here in the West. And that's one of the problems that we face as climate changes. We don't have that reservoir of cool, clear, clean water coming down from the mountains to keep our rivers and streams cool. Without cold, clean water, we don't have wild and native species of trout. If we let that slide, we failed.
And we have to take the time to say, okay, let's look at this honestly and accurately, and what do we have to do about it?
We're not going to turn things around without changing government, because government can make big changes. I mean, if you got a politician who's running for office who thinks he's smarter than 98% of the world's climate scientists, they're crooks or they're dumbasses.
We have the tools, the technology to really change the course that we're on.
We've got the technology, and what we need now is the leadership. Here in the U.S., I mean, we like to think that we're special. We like to think that we're unique. In many ways we are, because we have the ability to lead.
We have to lead in the world by our example. We've always been there, we've always done it in the past, and there's no reason to think we can't do it going into the future. At a time right now where our federal leaders are kind of irresolute, climate change should be right at the forefront.
I mean, it's really important that we talk about this and that we take action on it while we still can, because we can come out the other side of this. There is hope, but if this gets away from us, it takes everything else away. And if the U.S. doesn't lead on climate change, nothing gets done.
You know, we fixed things in the past, like acid rain, the hole in the ozone. The science says there is a chance to fix this, but we have to act right now, and we have to act very fast. As a community of anglers and hunters and outdoors people, as a whole, we're a powerful voice, and we can change things, you know, speak up.
This is the defining social, environmental issue of my generation and probably all generations to come.
There's that Norman MacLean quote, you know, no one understands time until eternity is compressed into a second, and the whole world's a fish, and then that fish is gone.
A lot of people in the state are unaware of what these waters hold. Sharing those, I think, is an important part of this community. Understand cold water in the state is exceptionally important. It's how we repair these systems, it's how we preserve and conserve them, and help these species thrive.
Just seeing the different careers that people have had, but still putting in a lot of time and dedication into these river restoration projects has been really cool. And that's what I want to do, you know, that's how I want to make an impact, is do what I love, and then at the end of the day come back and fish and protect the places that I love.
These are great places to preserve and protect and to improve for the better in the future. The people that have done the work here on the ground in Colorado have been doing it for decades. It's a lifetime endeavor of service, for sure.
So I made this like sand worm thing, the pink thing. It's really cool.
So
So the vision of our camp is to provide a program that is about half conservation education and about half fly fishing education.
I mean, here at camp, we want to provide a fun time for the kids, but the real guts of our program is turning them into conservationists.
Super excited to come down here and learn more about fly fishing and more about like tying flies and water conservation and learning about how the bugs help our environment and help everything else.
Emma's in college and she's a firefighter. So we take kids that are, some of them have never fly fished in their life, some of them are experienced, and we step them through the whole process of fly casting, reading a river. They learn how to tie flies, and then we tie that into macroinvertebrate surveys, how we use that aquatic life to gauge the health of streams.
I think one of my favorites is when you see the kids able to pick up a bug in the water and identify it as, oh, so this is a mayfly nymph, and I'd use this pattern to mimic it, to just really see that just information really cross over.
We have learned about the mayflies, the caddises, nymphs, and a lot of fun stuff. We've learned about the life cycles and when trout like to eat them the most and when they're around and how long they last for. I learned how to throw a fly a little bit better and in better pockets and stuff, which was really cool today. What else did I learn today? I don't remember that much.
We always have a conservation project at camp. And when we get feedback from our campers, that's one of the highlights to them, because that's when they actually get out there and plant a tree or help fix a trail, they realize, wow, I did something that impacts trout habitat. And they're really, really excited about that.
The future of the sport of fly fishing and the future of the people who are the caretakers of the streams is with our young people.
I got involved with youth education because I just think working with kids is a hoot. The energy feeds you.
As my wife says, I come back 10 years younger. A week spent with all these young people and all this infectious energy and enthusiasm that they have. And I would agree with her. I come back like, man, that was cool. I can't wait to go next year.
I will definitely take this knowledge that I've learned here, and even when I'm in another river, I will try teaching the younger people underneath me that want to learn fly fishing. I will teach them what I know and teach them what you guys have taught me here.
It works. Thank you. I threaded through the wrong one.
All right, stop running.
I didn't run, I walked back.
Most of the kids just love the opportunity to get away from mom and dad and have fun for the week. But there are some, and I've already identified some in this camp that are going to be the leaders of the future.
No, it doesn't. No, it's not.
Yeah, well, you learn so much. If you ever want to do anything outdoors, fishing-wise, this is definitely the place to go. You meet awesome people, you fish a lot, you learn a lot. It's quite the experience.
There are so many pressures in this world that reduce habitat. We need to have future guardians of that habitat.
And so just seeing it get better and better each year, I really think that this could be really something special that's around for a while.
was one or two different sort of subspecies of cutthroat trout in Colorado, and now there's this sort of explosion of, there's different lineages all over the state, and the idea of being able to catch something that's, almost like a living fossil.
It's wild. The elk were bugling. Come on, greenback. The little naive cutthroats were leaping out of the water for your fly before it even hit the water. And I think that's where I fell in love with native trout, I think, right there.
People getting to actually tangibly touch those species and fish for those species. That's why it's been so important to keep Zimmerman open to fishing, catch and release fishing.
We've been really going pretty hard on greenback recovery in the Platte Basin since about 2013, at least with regard to reintroducing populations. And Zimmerman Lake, where we are today, was the first place where we reintroduced these fish back into their native range, the South Platte Basin.
2013
we rely on volunteers from TU to help us collect fish and do the spawning operation.
We moved to Grand Junction in 77, and I think I saw that TU was having an organizational meeting the next year, and I thought, well, this is all about trout fishing. I want to go and check it out. After a while, the mission got to me. I mean, we're in this. We're not a fishing club, but it's a conservation effort and doing good work in good places. And it just resonated with me. That's all I can say.
But really, a lot of the work we've been doing has been more of a grassroots effort, building support from the ground up, and it couldn't be done without TU volunteers and also the TU staffers that have been great help.
Oh, look at that.
That I finally actually got to see not only a greenback trout for the first time in my life, a real, honest, a good one. I actually get to see it now, today, and I felt rather honored to be invited to come and do it, but because of my love for the native fish.
We're really getting the message out about native fish conservation to a broader public that expands beyond TU, but it's only because of TU's involvement that we're reaching those people. So I really see it just growing and growing, and I hope that the interest level to participate and play a role in making sure these fish are around for future generations to enjoy only expands.
I still have got one to go. You got to catch that one of those cutthroats that I saw today. It was fascinating to watch. Fish were beautiful, surroundings were beautiful. Hey, it doesn't get much better than this.
Our whole campaign within TU was really about asking the question, why Two Forks? Because we didn't think there was a good enough answer. I can remember my first day ever in Cheeseman Canyon quite clearly. I had been in Boulder, Colorado not very long and walked into a fly shop and hey, I've heard about this South Platte and Cheeseman Canyon. How do I get there? What do I do? And I crested the hill and walked in and I went down to the river and there's a beautiful pale morning dunhatch and I caught 7 or 8 trout right off the bat and immediately fell in love with the place. You come over the trail, the Gill Trail into Cheeseman Canyon, and you realize it's a special place. So that was another whole component of the Two Forks battle in that, well, for Denver and Front Range fly fishermen, Cheeseman Canyon is that mecca or that holy water. It really came down to what were the choices to develop water for the Front Range. I mean, it was a given that more water was going to be needed in the future, but as I said, it was really kind of an inflection point that all that started happening in, because people were realizing that we just can't take our rivers and other resources for granted, and we just can't keep building dams and inundating and annihilating great fisheries. Well, CTU had been fairly prominent in Colorado water issues for a number of years. We really ramped up in the 1980s. I think there was an increasing awareness at the time of our membership in the need to be advocates. When I came into Trout Unlimited, I was a 24-year-old, kind of a young Turk in the organization, right? Now I'm 62 years old, and while I don't think that way in my mind, I'm like, boy, now I'm like one of the older guys. So what I like to tell people of their 20s or millennials or of your generation is, what are your passions? To fulfill your passion, you need to be an advocate.
Between the old-timers and my personal experience, there's been a tremendous amount of change in the Fraser River, and it's mostly been deterioration, degradation of the river. Until Trout Unlimited came along, there was very little improvement of the river. That was an unheard of item. The more I got involved, the more people I knew, and the more knowledge I gained, and the more passionate I became, understanding that the Fraser River does need saving, and somebody's got to start that. And I felt obligated to do something for my community.
Mm-hmm.
I love Fraser.
Mm-hmm.
80% of a river, time to dig the heels in.
Yeah.
I became really a political opponent of the project. And now I'm a political proponent of the project. I actually think that Denver has offered enough mitigation to not just address the problems that they caused in the past, but the problems that the new project would cause. So we signed this Colorado River Cooperative Agreement. There is a 2 years worth of work to put into this. This is what led to all of the mitigation that Denver didn't offer to begin with, but we got eventually.
Mm-hmm.
They agreed in writing to do all kinds of concessions that Trout Unlimited felt, okay, now we can keep a river alive with Denver as an ally. And we started holding weekly phone calls with Denver Water to see how they could operate their system in a more environmentally friendly way. I started seeing improvements to the river. Denver Water started releasing additional water into streams that were seeing high stream temperatures. Had we continued to fight Denver, that river would die. Yeah. Partnering with Denver, we have a chance to keep this river alive, and if we can't keep these rivers alive that are so heavily diverted, the rest of the rivers in the state are in trouble. Yeah. Cultures change, and the culture at Denver Water has changed. You see this picture? That's what the Fraser looked like before the project. that cannot sustain aquatic life. The Fraser Flat stream channeling was a huge success. The immediate, obvious success was the biomass of fish went up 400% in this reach of stream. That's incredible. Before it couldn't sustain fish, and now it's got healthy, huge fish.
That's sweet. Fraser Valley Gold right there. Money!
In all my years of my own personal river journey, I've settled on 3 simple truths. Legislation's too slow, litigation's too expensive, education's going to save our rivers.
As a volunteer organization, that there's always projects going on and there's always people who are putting in a lot of time and work, but they don't get recognized. So a big part of this film, for me at least, was shedding light on all the people who have made Trout Unlimited so successful here in Colorado.
I think that's the thing that I'm going to take away the most is like patience, for lack of a better term. Like, this is a long road. People like Kirk have dedicated 30+ years to living in the Fraser Valley and turning around that watershed. But you know, driving past it last weekend, saw the work. Like, it has really made an impact.
Talking to the different people that we met all over Colorado, seeing them work on the projects that they have throughout time has encouraged me to keep volunteering with TU, because I know that there's always going to be a place for me to make an impact. Regardless of what I'm doing outside of Trout Unlimited, I can still be a student, I can still work as a firefighter, but then at the end of the day I can come back and fly fish and hang out with the people that I love here.
And you know, the mission now is greater than just like, hey, did I do one thing? It's like, no, I'm gonna do this throughout my lifetime. And then maybe I'll be the guy that gets rowed around by some young whippersnapper so that I can catch the trout. How many B-roll quotes can we roll out, you know, like, look how nice it is up here today, man. It's Colorado. Hey, dude.